All right, well, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to bring this panel to you. I actually know these students quite well, although it's been some time since I've seen them, so I'm excited to hear about how life has been going for them. I also have, if you're just coming in now, I asked if people could put where they're from in the chat. And we also have Dr. Sahalamum. So did I say that right? Close.
It's a long name, Salayamum.
Sahalamum. Sorry about that. She's joining us tonight from Emerson College, and she has a research project she wanted to talk about that she's looking for students who are, is it age 14 to 20?
Mm-hmm.
Who are deaf and hard of hearing. So I think we have some people that fit that demographic. So I'll let her talk for a few minutes about that.
Hi, thank you. This is the second time I'm actually joining one of these panels. So I'll stick around because I'm curious to hear what the process is for deaf and hard of hearing students in choosing a college. But I really appreciate, Kara, you giving me time, and you can actually call me Miriam. That's much easier. I have a coworker, and she and I are interested in getting information about deaf and hard of hearing's communication experiences in general education classrooms. And we're specifically interested in hearing about their confidence level in communicating with their peers and their classroom teachers. And it doesn't matter what communication system the student uses. So you could use spoken language if you have friends who are deaf or hard of hearing, and use sign language, a combination of the two, speech and sign, or even written communication in a gen ed setting. We have opened up, we're interested in hearing from a variety of people who use a variety of communication strategies. And we're trying to figure out if there's certain experiences as a student grows up that boost their sense of confidence in communicating with different people in a classroom environment, or boost their confidence in verbally participating in classroom discussions, expressing their opinions, and those kinds of things. And then in contrast to that, if there are experiences that sort of challenge a student's sense of confidence, that make it difficult to speak up, to express an opinion, to participate in a classroom situation. Because my colleague and I, we don't think we have much information about that. I'm a speech and language therapist. I worked in a high school for many years with deaf and hard of hearing students. And I worked on a lot of things: vocabulary, grammar, reading, writing, and even communication strategies. So things like asking for clarification, or advocating for yourself and your needs, disclosing that you do have a difference in your hearing. But I never checked with my students to get a sense of what's your confidence level in using the kinds of things that you're pretty good at, maybe in a clinical setting with me, or in a classroom with other deaf and hard of hearing peers, but not so confident in using in a general education classroom where most everybody is hearing and maybe doesn't relate to what it's like to have a difference in hearing. So that's a little bit about the study. And I actually want to drop the consent forms in the chat. And I'm here to ask not just those of you who are students, but anybody in attendance who thinks they might be able to disseminate this within their professional or social networks, to pass out, to share the form that I'm going to put in the chat. So people get to read about the study, and if they're interested, they click on a link if students are interested, and it takes you to an online survey with a series of questions. The survey is presented in English, or you can choose English and ASL or English and signed English. So it comes in a variety of formats, takes about 30 minutes, and anyone who completes it gets their name put into a lottery system for a chance to win a $50 gift certificate. So that's a little bit about the study. I don't know if we have time for anyone to ask questions, and I'm just going to grab the consent forms and drop those in the chat for anyone who wants to keep a copy. My email address is in the consent forms, as is the link to the survey itself.
Great. Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we're going to give each of the panelists an opportunity to talk about their experience and what it was like choosing a college and kind of how it worked out for each of them. We're going to start with Jamie, who's at James Madison University. She's studying health sciences and athletic training. And I just saw on Facebook, she's also doing some health coaching, which is exciting. And sorry, I got people still coming in here. She graduated from Franklin High School, Massachusetts, and she likes to hang out with her friends, keep in touch with her family, and she likes to work out. She has 2 cochlear implants and says, I've always been a self-advocate, but I've always needed to work harder. I definitely recommend working on how to defend yourself and your needs, because in middle and high school, you get everything you need with no trouble, but college is much different. Turn it over to you, Jamie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie. I'm from Franklin, Massachusetts. And yeah, so Kara just pretty much just kind of summed it all up. But yeah, finding a college experience has definitely been a little tricky. At first, when I came to James Madison University, it was definitely very hard to find people that I could connect with, whether they were hard of hearing, having a different disability, or someone without a disability. So just like going out and like joining any activities, clubs was definitely like one of my favorite things my freshman year. I actually joined a sorority and I did recruitment. I met so many girls through that. I have friends that I'm still friends with through recruitment, as well as with my sorority. 4 years later, like my 5 closest best friends are, like I'm still close with them. And I couldn't have chosen a better school. I've always wanted to go far away from home because I wanted to branch out and be my own person and kind of have that experience, and wanting to go home to see my friends at home and like people that I relate with at home, as well as here. Wanted to have that 2 different societies to go back and forth from. As for accommodations, I have an FM system that my professors use. I have a closed captioning service that I use just through my laptop. I have access to an Office of Disabilities. It has definitely been a rough path with them, just with COVID and everything, trying to figure out trying to get the needs that I need to get with like getting professors to wear their clear masks, because they're not following through with that when they should be. So I definitely had to be a little bit more hard cut with them and being really strict with them, being like, you have to wear this clear mask. Like, this is like how I'm going to be able to succeed in your class. So definitely being a self-advocate is going to be like a number one thing. And if you can get yourself to be a self-advocate, like you're going to succeed in more ways than one. So good luck to all of you who are applying to college soon or in a few years.
Thanks, Jamie. Can you tell a little more about the Office of Disabilities? I'm not sure if everybody knows what that is, and if I'm not sure, does every college have one? Probably not.
Yeah, so we have an Office of Disabilities where anyone who has a disability, whether it be a physical, all the way to developmental, mental, anything like that, be enrolled with the disabilities office to help the students get the needs that they need for classes or for living situations, whatever it may be. And they work, you are pretty much working one-on-one with one person most of the time, but there are a lot of other advisors in the office that you can contact and reach out to. I know one person I've been in contact on a regular day basis is the captioning service. She captions all my videos for lectures and other videos that I watch may be presented in class, especially last year with online classes. I definitely had to be, in contact with him a lot to make sure he was getting the videos that he needs to caption so that I was able to watch them and get the information I needed. I also do my testing in there. It's my reduced distraction space. I get extra time. So, I mean, at least with my school, it has different uses to it. I'm not sure about other schools who do have a disability services. It might be a little bit different, but I do know that James Madison, they do try their best, but sometimes you really just got to push them to give you what you need.
Thanks so much, Jamie. Let's see, going on to our next panelist, Maggie. Maggie's is at Rochester Institute of Technology. She's pursuing a dual degree. She's getting a BS in digital humanities and social science and a BFA in new media design, which I want to learn about. Maggie graduated from Medfield High School. She's in a sorority on campus and she loves it. Maggie was born with typical hearing and she lost her hearing when she was between 2 or 3. And that's when I met her. She has bilateral cochlear implants. And here's Maggie.
Hi, everyone. So I am, well, you basically summed up the beginning part of it. But when I was looking at colleges, I did apply to a lot of different colleges, but I knew RIT was like my first choice because of their little college on campus called the National Technical Institute for the Deaf, which is basically a government-funded college for deaf and hard of hearing students that are either do ASL or speak or whatever. But I am a cross-registered student there, so I'm able to get the support I need from as far as like closed captioning and note taking, along with other additional services I might need, and go to take classes at other colleges on campus, like College of Art and Design and College of Liberal Arts. But anyway, so when I first went to RIT though, I did not know what I wanted to do. So I took a bunch of different classes from different colleges, but by my second year, I finally declared my major in digital humanities and social science. It's basically a major that it pairs liberal arts with digital technologies. And then over this past summer, I decided to add another major, which was my BFA in new media design, which is basically working with designing user interface and whatnot. But basically, my goal with this pair is to make design more accessible. And it did add an extra year, but luckily with since NTID is government funded, it has reduced my tuition by like almost half, which is extremely nice. And as I am a part of a sorority on campus, and they do love me for who I am, and I feel like I've grown a lot, especially learned to appreciate RIT. This is very male dominant, but it's also helped me grow as someone with cochlear implants, knowing that I have people in my sorority that will advocate for me when I can't, or will help get me the services I need and all that stuff. Everyone at RIT is definitely very understanding, especially with the large deaf population we have on campus. And I've noticed that since I been to college, with the services I receive, like closed captioning and note taking and all that stuff, I've done so much better academically than I did in high school, where I just didn't really get the services I needed. And that pretty much sums it up for me.
That's awesome, Maggie. Thank you for sharing. And I do see some questions coming up in the chat. Feel free to respond to those, guys. And I'll also give time at the end for people to ask questions, and you guys can respond verbally. All right, let's move on to Ryan. Ryan is at Tufts University. He's a junior studying biomedical engineering. Ryan graduated from Duxbury High School, and he enjoys ultimate frisbee, mountain club, hiking, skiing, and running. And he has Springer Spaniels. Those of you who know me know that that's really important and special. Ryan was born deaf, and he uses cochlear implants, which he notes used to affect my life a lot, but now it hardly does. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Hi, everyone. Miss Jordan pretty much covered most of it. A couple other notes that I was born profoundly deaf, and I currently only have one cochlear implant and currently only use one cochlear implant. I am technically bilateral, but my left one just never really worked out and kind of abandoned that one 15 years ago. Um, so I went to Clark School East as a preschool in Canton, Massachusetts, and then went up through the Duxbury Public School System throughout kindergarten through high school, and then went to Tufts University for college, where I'm currently a junior. And I will say, I'm very happy where I am. I'm having a great time here, but there was definitely a lot of doubt about that when I was, first applying to colleges and, looking for somewhere that would accommodate my hard of hearing, accommodate my deafness, and would, help me thrive in a both academic but also social setting. And I was incredibly lucky that growing up throughout all my years before college, that I had many wonderful people around me, like Miss Jordan, like, I can name so many names that have, done most of the work for me and have done, all the application that I need to do for myself. And, Jamie and Maggie touched on this earlier, but when you do go to college, you got to be your own self advocate for your needs. And so one of the first things I did when I was, looking at colleges and going to the accepted students day was reaching out to like the disability services and, seeing what they had to offer, what their, programs were, how much support they would give students. And I'm sure every, college in the country has some form of, disability services. I think they kind of legally have to, if I'm not mistaken, but some are definitely better than others. And I won't say I'm, lucky enough that I wouldn't say I considered it as a huge factor in where I decided to go. But I think that was also just, everywhere I visited seemed to have, a very encouraging and very welcoming, support system in terms of that. So I didn't feel like there was any one college where I was turned off because of those reasons. And once I came to Tufts, I, immediately met with people from, student access services. I got a contact person there immediately who's been super helpful over the past 2.5 years. And, luckily I haven't really needed that many accommodations. It's more been a sort of, go to classes, see how you do. And if there's anything you need, anything at all, reach out. And I've taken advantage of that a few times, like, switching out of a class where a professor has a super heavy French accent and a big beard where, I can hardly understand what they say or what they lip read. But for the most part, I haven't really needed any additional support. They've always emphasized that, services like CART or live captioning are available should I need it. And it's very comforting to know that I have the option to take advantage of those if I need to. But yeah, so far I haven't really felt like, the need to do that. Luckily for me, in my situation. But yeah, a couple other notes, I think one other thing I want to talk about is the social side of high school. Social side of college, because I know that was another thing I was super, concerned about, because I don't know any other deaf students at Tufts University. I'm sure there's a couple other out there, but I just haven't met them. And, I was always worried, like, growing up in the same high school system, all my friends from high school I had known since I was a little kid. It was the first time in my life where I'd have to make new friends again. And I was wondering, like, would being deaf, both for the stigma of, this kid is deaf, he's different in some way, but also in the sense of maybe not hearing as much, in conversations and social settings, and letting that be a factor in building relationships. Those were things I was concerned about heading into college, but luckily in my experience, it definitely takes work, building up new individual social relationships with friends, but it's not nearly as hard or insurmountable as a challenge as I thought it was going to be. And I'm, I have many good friends here at college. I I'm super lucky to, have so many great people in my life who have supported me through this. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'm up here being kind of the poster child of, it's all going to work out in the end. It's all, as long as you advocate for yourself and as long as you know what your needs are and communicate them, then you're going to thrive in any college setting when it comes to your deafness. And so I'll take more questions at the end for people who have them, but that's pretty much all I have for now.
Thank you, Ryan. All right. Next, we're going to hear from Ellie. Ellie is a newly transferred student at UMass Dartmouth. She started her college journey at the University of Rhode Island. She studied ocean engineering and Spanish at URI, but she will be studying marine biology at UMass Dartmouth. Have you started at UMass Dartmouth now?
Not yet. So I'll start the fall semester. So I mean, I'll talk about this later, but I have taken some time off in between. So, but yeah.
Okay. She graduated from Plymouth North High School, so you can probably guess how I know her. In 2018, she was a 3-sport varsity athlete and an honors student. She was diagnosed with bilateral hearing loss at birth, and she wears 2 Oticon OPN Play 1 hearing aids, which is very popular right now. And they're really awesome how they connect to technology.
Mm-hmm.
Ellie's a Mass Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Outstanding Youth Advocate of the Year Award recipient. And in 2017, she was also awarded a citation for exceptional leadership in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts State Senate. She's excited to share her experience with advocacy and leadership in education. Thanks, Ellie.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. So basically, I mean, everyone's touched on this so far already, but self-advocating is obviously the theme of what is going to make your child or your own college experience successful. And personally, my journey of self-advocating started long before college, basically in middle school and mostly high school. So by the time I was a sophomore in high school, I was basically running, and if not running, having a really big part of my IEP program or meetings, which taught me how to advocate for the accommodations I need and taught me how to justify why I need them as well, which is really important with disability services. If they are tending to give you a hard time, you have to be able to tell them why you need these services. But basically, when I was looking at colleges, I knew I wanted to either do civil engineering or ocean engineering, and URI is the only college that I was really interested in that also had ocean engineering, and it also had an international program, so that's why I had the Spanish major as well. So the reason why I chose URI was because I was able to really relate with my contact at Disability Services, which I knew was going to be a big part, because I knew that between my classes being really difficult from the get-go and like the social part of it, I didn't want to be struggling or fighting with disability services. So having a good relationship before I even stepped foot on campus was a big part. And the way I was able to establish that relationship was for each of my accepted students day, I made an appointment in person to go talk to disability services, which definitely gave me a good vibe on whether they were going to be able to give me everything I wanted. And also, like, a big part of that too was my 504 has a lot in it, probably more than I need, but there's never enough in a 504. Like, if you don't use it, then you don't use it, but it's better than not having it in there if you do need it, because college is just a totally different beast. It's not like high school where you're always having small classes, you're having bigger classes. Professors are asking students to answer questions that are on the opposite side of the room. So you're going to find difficulties that you haven't even thought about really when you're in high school. So basically, when I stepped foot at URI, I rushed for a professional engineering frat called Theta Tau. And I am no longer part of that now, but I still have a lot of friends from that. So I guess finding a club that you're really passionate about when you step foot on campus helps you make a lot of friends that you might have not normally met. And also the dorm situations at URI, specifically for engineering students, they're only doubles, not triples, which was also something that I was really happy about because the dynamic of 3 is really challenging, especially in a roommate situation. And I had disability services pay for a alarm clock that shakes my bed instead of makes like sound, which I definitely think made my roommate situation go a lot smoother because I'm not waking up everyone else with my alarm clock. It's shaking my bed. So I basically asked them for the alarm clock, and I wanted to make sure that my dorm had a fire alarm that is visual, not only just the sound. And they were able to do that for me as well. And I also was in the Honors College when I started at URI, and that gave me access to smaller classrooms. So instead of having a physics lecture with 150, I think I had there was 17 people in my class, which helps with tutoring and stuff. Because if my friend understood one assignment and I didn't, I was able to reach directly to them. And also with disability services, I had a note taker. And for me in high school, if I had told myself that I was going to have a note taker in high school or in college, I would have been mortified because it just seemed so embarrassing to me. I didn't want the extra attention. But one of the big things that I liked about URI was it was a kind of a medium-sized school where it was big enough that no one really cared. No one is paying attention to anyone except for themselves most of the time. So that was something that I would have liked to tell my younger self, that it doesn't matter. And the note takers give their notes to me very discreetly. They actually did it through disability services, so they didn't even know who I was, which I really liked. And also disability services has the resources to give note takers themselves incentives to take notes in those classes. So it's not just I'm benefiting, we're both benefiting from the exchange. Another one of my accommodations that I have found really helpful is early registration for my classes. And Ryan talked about this a little bit, but professors with really thick accents or really big beards are hard for me to understand, just because I read a lot of lips. And early registration helped with choosing professors that I was able to sit in on a class and see that they were I could understand them, which is definitely very helpful. But yeah, so the other thing too is I obviously started at URI and now I'm on my way to UMass Dartmouth, and I took classes at the community college in Rhode Island as well to kind of start getting credits because I knew I didn't want to do engineering anymore, hence why I'm doing the biology side of the marine as well. So I took some classes to get rid of gen eds and stuff, which college is not always a 4-year journey. I know very few people that actually do college in 4 years anymore. The majority of my friends are doing extra semesters, or especially with COVID, people took time off. So I just want to alleviate any pressure for students as well. You don't have to complete college in 4 years. It's really, you have to go at your own pace, especially when it costs so much money. You want to make sure you're doing it right and doing it the way you need to be doing it. But yeah, so the other thing about meeting with disability services is you're valued at the university. You got into this university, they want you to go here. You have to sell yourself, but also if they don't give you the accommodations you need, then you have to fight for it, but also know that you can take your services elsewhere, which definitely, it's not blackmail. I wouldn't condone that, but when I was at URI, they weren't willing to give me CART at first. And I basically told them that if they weren't going to allow me at least the option to use CART, that I would probably not be able to go. And then I got an email back that they were fine with the CART. And so basically, you just have to be tough with them. It's hard. to be like tough when you are new to all of this, but it's definitely something worth fighting for.
Thank you, Ellie. Very well said. I think one of the points that I liked that you made was that you have to explain why you need an accommodation. I think one of the things that you all have in common is you're very strong communicators. And I think people, even in the disabilities offices, might interpret your clear speech and your strong language skills as that you are, what I used to always say, dangerously close to normal. Like you appear to be typical hearing kids, even though you're all deaf. So I think that kind of works against you sometimes with people who don't really understand the field of deafness. So, but you guys are paving the way, hopefully, for other students coming behind you as well. All right, let's see. Next, we're going to move on to Kylie. Kylie is at Rochester Institute of Technology as well. She's studying industrial design with a minor in packaging science and a minor in psychology. I want to hear about that combination. That's awesome. Kylie graduated from Lorena High School in Thousand Oaks, California. She was born deaf and she received an advanced bionics cochlear implant in her right ear when she was 2 years old. And she transferred from Emmanuel College in Boston to RIT due to issues with access services. She's going to talk about this process during this meeting and the importance of self-advocacy.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great night so far. So I think before I start talking about my college experiences, I need to talk a little bit about my high school experiences. So I went to a small private Catholic all-girls school in Southern California. So, my experiences are a little bit different, I think, but I basically had no support services in high school. I didn't have like an IEP. I didn't have that. So I really I was forced to advocate for myself in high school. And I used an FM system, but between I only had like 5 minutes to get from one class to the next class. And by the time I got the FM system off the teacher, got my books and stuff that I needed for the next class, and then gave the FM system to the next teacher, I was already cutting into class time. So I ended up I didn't use my FM system after my freshman year of high school. So I went through high school with no access services at all. And it was rough. I would take a 2-hour nap or 3-hour nap every day after school because I was so tired from attentive listening. So when it came to college, I knew I definitely wanted a college that had a disability support office, but I didn't quite really think about the services I needed because I didn't have services myself, so I didn't know what I needed or what I was looking for. So anyway, so for colleges, I was looking into art therapy. Because I grew up loving art and I love psychology. So I thought that would be a perfect fit for me. So I found Emmanuel College in Boston, and I knew I wanted to get out of Southern California and go see some other places. And I grew up in Massachusetts and I really missed it back. So I wanted to go back. And then I also figured I went to Mass Eye and Ear in Boston. So I figured, oh, I'm perfect. Like I'm right in Boston. I'm right there. So if something were to happen to my cochlear implant, I'll be all set, So anyway, so I got to Emmanuel. I formed a strong relationship with the disabilities office coordinator there. She was very nice, very friendly. And so basically I just had like a bad experience in the class where it was a 3-hour psychology class on Friday afternoons. The professor was an old lady and she was very soft-spoken, and I sat right in the front row of the class and I still couldn't hear her. And I also had note takers in that class as well. And unfortunately, the problem with, I think one of the biggest things about college that I didn't realize is participation is very important in the classroom. In high school, you can kind of get away with not participating, but in college, you have a lot of like group discussions, a lot of things like that. And so for me, I couldn't participate because I had no idea what that kid was sitting 20 feet across from me in the room, and I was afraid of repeating myself, like repeating what other people had said. So it was really tough for me to participate in the classroom. And I noticed every time I would get grades back from classes, I always had like a low participation grade, even though I showed up to class on time, I did the homework, I did everything. I always had a low participation grade because I didn't feel confident enough in speaking up in the classroom. So for that class, in that 3-hour psychology class, I asked my disabilities coordinator if I could have CART. And I explained, this is the first class that I really needed because I'm struggling. I'm trying the best I can. I'm doing everything I can. I just need some help here. Can I have CART? And she said it was too expensive. So that was a bit of a stonewall. So I ended up changing psychology classes to something else, but it was a bit disappointing to be told that. In addition, I was also starting to have problems with the note takers in my other classes. So I don't want to say that every college is like this. It's a little bit different everywhere, and you'll have different note takers as well. So it just kind of depends on their style. But for me, I had note takers that would send me notes at 1 o'clock in the morning, like the day before class. Some of them would just copy word from the PowerPoints in class and just send them to me as their notes. And for me, I just needed help understanding what was happening in the classroom, not necessarily what the professor was saying, but just keeping in touch with the class discussion. So unfortunately, I was just so frustrated. Like I wasn't able to participate. It wasn't the major also kind of didn't work out because all the full-time professors had left. So there was one adjunct professor for art therapy, and it just kind of all fell apart basically. So I did some research and went back to the colleges I applied for. So RIT was my number 2 choice. And so I figured I went to an open house and I said, yeah, I gotta go here. I think this is the fit for me. So I have to say, like, RIT is at the top of their game with access services. It's extremely organized. You can request note taking, captioning, sign language interpretation. And so for me, when I transferred to RIT, I couldn't believe how easy it was to just request the services I needed, and you can request any kind that you want, so you don't have to have all CART for all your classes or all interpreting. It's completely up to you. So that was great for me because I really needed CART with lecture classes where I'm taking a lot of notes and stuff. And they'll give you an iPad, or I can see the captions on the laptop. Either way is fine. And so for me, I ended up using CART a lot at the beginning of my RIT journey. And then I transitioned to sign language interpretation because I noticed I slowly started picking up sign language when I got to RIT. And luckily I had one class where I had a captionist and also a sign language interpreter in the class, and I was able to start picking up on the interpreter signs. And so my ASL skills just really took off from there. And so now I have all interpreters in my classes, but sometimes I'll mix them up. Like last semester I had a captionist for one of my classes that was a heavy lecture class. And so that really just worked out. It was great. I love RIT. I transferred from Emmanuel to RIT in the spring 2018. I immediately joined a sorority as well, and that really helped me to just make connections, make friends. There were a lot of interpreting students, also a lot of deaf sisters in the sorority as well. That really helped me kind of pave my way and find my path. And it's just great. And I'm gonna graduate this semester, so it's been a good time. So yeah.
Thank you, Kylie. That's awesome. I think I'm so proud of you too that you realized that you weren't gonna get anywhere, with Emmanuel. I'm sorry things didn't work out, but you know what? The path that life takes us is usually the way we're supposed to go anyway. So hopefully you're on the right track and things are going well now.
everything really has a way of working themselves out, I think. So
It does. All right, now we've got Jeremy. Jeremy's at Emory University. He's studying accounting and economics. Jeremy graduated from Sharon High School and likes playing video games, hiking, sleeping, and cooking. He uses an N7, that's a Nucleus 7 cochlear implant, and an Oticon hearing aid. In classes, he uses a MyLink and a Roger pen that the professor wears. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy.
Thank you, Kara. Yeah, so my name is Jeremy. I went to Sharon High School, and kind of like people have said, in high school, I got a lot of the accommodations I need. My mom especially helped advocate there for me. And then when I got to college, it was a lot more kind of on me. But in the build up to college and in picking a school, my mom kind of made me / helped me talk to all the disabilities offices to figure out what accommodations each school could offer. And so once I did that, I was down to Emory and UNC, and both of them kind of seemed really good in terms of the accommodations. And then I chose UNC because I kind of just wanted I chose Emory because I wanted a smaller school and kind of something like in Atlanta and more of a city. And so it's been great since I've been here. The summer before I started, I had a call with the disabilities office. I sent them all kind of the paperwork, a 504 and kind of the other paperwork, and we kind of talked through it, and I requested CART there, not thinking I would ever need it, but that really helped me kind of going forward because you kind of have the same plan every year. You can make changes if you want, but I never had to. And then CART, when COVID hit, was very helpful. And so I had all my classes with CART. I worked with Classroom Technologies to get the MyLink and Roger Pen, which is the professor just wears it and goes straight to and I wear another necklace and goes straight to my hearing aids, which has been very helpful. I just walk up before every class, show the professor, I send them an email before the semester, kind of telling them a little bit about it, but the disabilities office usually has already reached out to them about it, which is very nice. So that way it's not as big of an introduction on my part, but I usually show up 5 minutes before class, give it to them, and it works out. And then let's see, what else? Yeah, and it's kind of been good throughout my whole time here. They didn't have any other deaf students that used like a MyLink or Roger Pen, so they bought 2 for me. And so I like lost them in my bag or in my room somewhere, and I couldn't find it. So I'd email them, pick it up the other one the next morning, and find it a week later and return it. But yeah, Emory's been very good to me in terms of any accommodations that I need. I've gotten it. The main person who I worked with left before this year, and I know, so that was kind of one time I was a little unsure how my accommodations would work out. But I reached out to my academic advisor, who sent me someone else's contact information, who's helped me kind of just make sure I get whatever I need and make sure my professors are aware and kind of know the situation.
That's awesome, Jeremy. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I guess what we can do is open it up to questions. If anyone has questions for the general questions or specific questions for one of the panelists. I did see there was a question. I think some of you addressed it in the chat. Where is it? About roommate situations. Does anyone want to talk about that, living in the dorms, or what accommodations you've needed in the dorms?
I can briefly talk about it for me. So I coming in, one of the accommodations I got was special kind of place in a dorm. And so they gave me flashing fire alarms. And with that, in my freshman room came a private bathroom. So I shared that with one person, but that was very nice to have like private toilet and shower and not need to kind of go out in the hallway and use the communal one. And then, so I had the flashing fire alarm the whole time. Then we also bought a LifeTone fire alarm, which listens to if there's a fire alarm and then vibrates my bed if it like kind of goes off. So that way I don't need to worry about like if I'm sleeping face down or sleeping kind of away from the flashing fire alarm. It kind of wakes me up. And then I also use a watch because one time before an exam, the like kind of bed shaker that I normally use slipped off. And so I didn't wake up. The professor was very understanding and I was able to retake it the next day. And so I wear the watch now to make sure I wake up and have just kind of a backup.
Another note on the roommate situation. You, as a deaf person, you are kind of inherently the best possible roommate ever because you use a vibrating alarm clock where you don't wake your roommate up in the morning, especially when you have 8 a.m. classes. You're like, I sleep deaf. And so like your roommate can be as loud as they want, as late into the night as they want. They don't have to worry about that. Or if they snore, they don't have to worry about that. Yeah, it's definitely it's an advantage in that aspect.
I definitely agree with Ryan. I know like my sophomore year, I was living in my sorority house on campus, and I know my roommates were like so intrigued by my bed shaker. Like I would like set my alarm for the next morning for my 8 a.m. Like it'd be like a Monday, Friday class. And like, ew, you have to get up early. But I'm like, guys, I could use my coolish like alarm clock shaker. And they're like, what? And I'm like lay in my bed, like I'll set the alarm. And they're like, wait, how does this wake you up? So I have been called to be the coolest roommate. And also last year was my first year living off campus in my apartment, and a bunch of my friends came over. My roommate's friends came over, and they were somehow talking about my alarm clock. So they just laid in my bed. We just hung out in my room, and they just like were just laying in my bed because the bed was shaking. They just liked the feeling. I was like, okay. So definitely the bed shaker will be helpful and useful when you have those 8 a.m.s because they're really hard to get up for. And I'm a senior and I'm in at 8 a.m. every day. So yeah.
I see people were asking about the assistive technology, the FM systems, the Roger Penn, asking how you were able to get it, whether you had to purchase it or if Disability Services got it for you. And how do you manage that? Is there an audiologist that you work with, or on campus, or?
Personally, for me, I keep in contact with my audiologist back at home in Waltham. I just have backup equipment here just because I know like in Virginia, the services around here with audiology is a little difficult. So I, was just, I'll keep in contact with my own. And I actually had talked to her about different FM systems, and she actually had ordered a Roger Penn for me. It's by Phonak, Phonak. I think if you just search that with Roger Penn, some website may come up and you might be able to order one like on your own. I definitely recommend purchasing your own because I know with like my disability services, if you rent, you can like rent out technology from them, but if it breaks or like something goes wrong, like you have to end up paying for it. So I definitely recommend getting your own. That way you don't have to deal with like if there's damaging, you don't have to pay for those costs. And definitely like having your own is definitely helpful too, because if you're hanging out with your friends in your dorm room or in your apartment, or hanging out with big family parties or whatever, sometimes it might be helpful just to have that, because I know loud settings can be very difficult to have conversations.
Yeah, I personally, for the most part, only use it in class. I haven't really had a need to use it any other time, which I've been lucky enough not to. But yeah, the school got it for me, as I mentioned before, and they got two, which was very nice and makes it a lot easier on me. And then they use the Roger Penn, which is what I give to professors. And I wear kind of a MyLink, which is I just turn my hearing aids and implant into telecoil, and then that connects directly to the MyLink, which connects to the pen. And it's really very easy to use. So I haven't had any issues or any need to kind of contact someone other than classroom technologies. I definitely know more about it than they do anyway. So I don't know if they would be of the most help if I came into any issues, but I haven't. So it's been good.
Jeremy, Tracy was asking what kind of watch you use. And she asked about, people who use smartwatches oftentimes will charge them overnight. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, I use a different watch. I had one before that was better, but I think the company went out of business. And so I can look up the company. I think I have the box. Yeah. Let's see. I got it off Amazon. I think it's meant to like remind people to take their pills, like remind older people. But I use it to kind of set my bedtime alarm. I can't find the company name. I can look it up after and let you know. But yeah,
oh, sorry.
No, you go. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I also have I have a Fitbit that I use as a vibrating alarm clock whenever I'm not sleeping in my bed. It's great and it's amazing for like camping, nights at friends' houses, tournaments, whatever. And it's yeah, I also have, you can see a little my D tag here, which acts as kind of like a medical bracelet because my mom is always, egging me on to wear one, because what if you get injured and knocked out and they give you an MRI and you get brain damage for the rest of your life? And so, that's a good compromise between us that I can just have this on me. And so it's great for both of those purposes as well. And you can get one for, I have a bit more of a nicer model because I run a lot. I'm super active. I like to keep track of all that, but you can get one I used to have one that was like pretty cheap. It was like $40 or $50. And I used it. It kept like your basic steps and stuff, but it also worked as an amazing alarm clock as well. So if you're just after that, then I highly recommend it.
Great, thank you. I also see a question here from an educational audiologist, Jody, who asks, I've worked with several students who are shy and don't like to talk to teachers. I use questionnaires and then help them to build a letter that they can customize in the future. What strategies have you used if you feel a teacher is not approachable?
I just still try to be a self-advocate. Like, even if the professor is not approachable, maybe like the class before or after class is not a good time. Maybe she has classes back to back. I know I would go to office hours, or I know in the chat, it was mentioned by one of us saying that, I would email one of my professors before every semester, all my professors, explaining, introducing myself, explaining my disability, explaining my needs in the classroom, and letting them know that I am available to meet with them in person or on Zoom if they have any questions about how they can support me. I have been lucky that this disabilities office does send out a accommodations letter that basically explains my disability and what my needs are in the classroom to each of my professors. For the most part, they've been pretty accurate about that, but I still try to email them first and explain all of that, because sometimes they don't even get those accommodations letters. So definitely being a self-advocate that way is also helpful. If you're shy and you don't want to reach out to them in person, email is definitely one of the best ways to communicate with your professor. But for the most part, I feel like professors, at least in my experience, professors have been pretty approachable. Freshman year, I did have like 2 professors that were just like, did not want to work with me and not help me with my accommodations. So definitely being, really strict with what, explaining why you need certain things and, really getting what you need is going to help you succeed in the classroom. Because if you want to, the way you're going to succeed is the way you're going to move on to like getting through those general education requirements. It's definitely a hard thing because, like Ms. Jordan was saying earlier, like we have great communication skills, like, they might not think that we need anything extra support, but we do need those extra support systems to help us succeed in the classroom.
Yeah, kind of going off what Jamie just said. So like this day and age, I feel like email is your best friend. If you are having a student that's hard, like finding face-to-face contact really difficult. Email is always a great way to start. And also what Jamie was saying about emailing the professors before the semester starts is really helpful. I usually try to meet with the professors in person or over Zoom. They're a lot more easy to get them to use your accommodations if they can put a face to the name and you're not just another student in one of their classes. They have like a relationship with you and they know like kind of who they're screwing over if they don't use their accommodations. It's very hard to, say to someone's face, you're not going to do it to them or help them out with it. And also just what really helped me, because in high school, it was really, really hard for me to self-advocate, even with the teachers I had then. What really helped me was the practice. Like my MSN and my speech teacher basically made me go talk to teachers and they would help rehearse conversations with me as well. And my mom still does that with me, rehearsing conversations that are really hard to have.
We have another great question here. Do any of you have recommendations as this family is starting their college search process? Are there any important questions to ask on a college tour?
I think I had mentioned this in the chat. For a college tour, I would definitely recommend just asking questions about classes, about the campus in general, maybe like average class size, what people do, like what activities or clubs the student body joins. For accommodations specifically, I would maybe ask your tour guide to direct you to the disabilities office or whatever the system is called at that college, and set up a meeting one-on-one with them, because talking with someone in the office is going to be a lot more helpful and a lot more less agitating, because your tour guide might not know anything about the disabilities office you're looking for and what the questions you may have about that. They may not be able to answer it, and they may not be able to give you the answers that you're looking for. So I would definitely, when you're on your tour, I would maybe even before the tour, contact the disabilities office and say you will be touring the school on this day at this time. And if you can set up a one-on-one meeting with someone, because they'll be able to work with you. Hopefully they'll work with you and set up a time during that day so you can get the college experience on the tour and getting the questions answered about the accommodations in the dorms and classrooms and whatnot. I definitely recommend doing that, because I did that with my dad and that was very, very helpful. I was able to understand what services are provided, what services I might be able to use, may need, may not need, stuff like that.
Another note on that, all colleges have their accepted students day, where when you're a senior in high school, you go there, you check it out. I definitely went to quite a few of them before I made my decision. And almost always they'll have like a booth there that's, disability service or access service or whatever their version is. And my mom and I definitely, when we were looking at, colleges, April of my senior year of high school, we spent plenty of time talking to each of those people at those booths. And that was very helpful in, feeling comfort that every college was going to be supportive and have the resources I needed.
That's great. I'm trying to look in the chat and see if there's anything else that's in here that I didn't hit. Several of you guys were talking about a program. I think Amanda Keenan, you popped in there too, talking about the summer program at RIT. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, NTID RIT provides a summer program for upcoming juniors and seniors in high school. It gives them an opportunity to give an idea of what college is like. I know the last few years have been virtual, but I believe this year it's going to be in person, where it's a week-long summer program. You go to Rochester Institute of Technology. You live in the dorms. They room you with, you can room with someone, or they do random rooming with someone who is like completely deaf, who only signs, or who has hearing aids, a cochlear implant, they do really good to coordinate with you with the person that is the same hearing as you. The whole thing of this is you get to stay in the dorms, you get to eat in the cafeterias, you get like a tour of the campus. You take classes and you get a feel of like what each class is in different like fields, and you get a better understanding what you think you will want to do your career in. They have tons of different activities that happens at nighttime. It's like a lot of fun experience. I met so many friends, and when I went to RIT as for my college, I ended up rooming with my friend from EYF. So it's a great opportunity, and I think it gives deaf individuals a better understanding of how college will work, and it gives you like the freedom to like expand yourself and to communicate with people and make friends where you don't think you would see everyday basis. Like for some of us, we went to like a mainstream school. You're not around deaf or hard of hearing people all day long. Where at EYF, you're around them for a whole week. So you get to like learn people's lifestyle from where they come from. It's just a lot of fun. I believe this year is in person, so I definitely would try to like apply and then see if you guys like it. It's a good opportunity.
That's great. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, Jamie, I wish every college had that.
Yeah.
Let's see, other questions. Actually, Jody, if you send me the template, I'll be sure to share that with people. I think there was discussion. It was a template about either an email draft or a letter draft to explain your hearing to a professor. Is that what the document is that you were trying to share?
I think I saw someone ask
Yes.
a question about strategies you'd use if you feel a teacher is not approachable, because I felt that a very important part of self-advocating and, sticking up for yourself in college is building a relationship with all of your professors and making sure they know who you are and that you're deaf and that you might need certain accommodations. In my experience, I found that college professors are a completely different breed from like high school teachers or, most other teachers I've had in the past. They want to see you succeed. They take their their teaching and their subject matter very seriously, but at the end of the day, they want you to succeed and they want you to, take the maximum you can away from their class. So I think just going in with that mindset, whether you feel more comfortable talking to them one-on-one, after a class or during office hours or sending an email. I think just going in with that mindset, knowing that even though a professor may look scary and intimidating and may seem like they want to fail everybody in the class, that's not true, or at least should not be true. If that is genuinely true, get the hell out of that class. But I think it's definitely a scary thing to do. It's this whole self-advocating stuff, which has become the main theme of this entire panel. It's a scary thing to do, but it's a very important thing to do, and I've definitely grown a lot as a person as a result.
Going off of what Ryan was saying about really going in with the mindset, knowing you're confident and can advocate for yourself, and just being you. That's really my number one thing. I know that we all have that difference from everyone else on campus. I go to a school that's almost 22,000 students. Like, I know I'm unique. I know I'm like can be my own person, but going in with the mindset, knowing that I'm confident and that I do the best that I can do, and just make my parents proud. Like that's all I care about. And just when you make those friends, like those close friends connections, they're going to stand up for you and they're going to know what you need in the classroom. I've actually had experience this semester. One of my good friends, she stood up for me. She really reached out to someone for me to get the accommodations that I needed because I wasn't getting it and I was getting frustrated. I have a heavy course load this semester. And I just like had no time to reach out to disability services to, you know, help me out with that. Because sometimes they get backed up with everything and sometimes it's just like not a good time to reach out. But making those friends is going to be very important as well, because they're really going to like be there for you and they're really going to stick up for you and, you know, like hype you up. Like, you know, if you have a bad day, like they're just going to be like, shake it off. Like, it's okay. Like you're going to have a bad day every once in a while. And like, you are like, I'm going to be honest, brutally honest, like you're going to have those bad days and you're just going to want to like go home, but stick it through. You got it. And it'll all work out. That's all I got to say. Got that.
I want to add one thing that off of what Jamie was saying. At RIT, at least, I don't know if they do this at other colleges, but they do offer like services like closed captioning for extracurriculars. Like for me, they do it for my sorority. Like whenever I have meetings and stuff, if it's requested, then they'll come and stuff. So our sorority president does like advocate for me, making sure I get those services. And for other sisters in the sorority that also need those services.
Do you all have, I know a couple of you mentioned 504 plans. Do you all have 504 plans? And if you don't have a 504 plan, how do you ensure that you get your accommodations and supports?
Yeah, so I can talk really quickly about that. I have a 504 plan and I've had an IEP for a very long time. So the transition from a 504 or an IEP to a 504, it really started my sophomore year. My speech teacher did a lot of preparation of what the differences between a 504 and an IEP are, because it's kind of a lot. It's just like the same thing, and they're protecting your right to have equal access, but it's in a different way. And like your 504 isn't just for school, it's for other things as well. Like if I needed accommodations at my workplace, I would be able to use my 504 for that as well. But yeah, I basically, when I am talking to disability services, I always have to like provide my 504. So I never have any trouble with disability services necessarily accepting my 504 for a reason why I need those accommodations.
Going off of what Ellie was saying, I had an IEP, you know, growing up for as long as I could remember. And when I was reaching the end of my high school career, I had met with both my parents and other teachers, my speech pathologist, and other teachers like that. And we went through the transition of what an IEP to a 504 plan would look like. If you or your child is on a IEP, I definitely would recommend setting up a meeting with them, and they can explain to you the differences and how it would be shifted. Because I know an IEP, you just kind of were like reached out to someone who's like, hey, my child is hard of hearing, or I'm hard of hearing. Like, how do I get an IEP kind of thing? They'll be able to explain those differences, and they'll be able to help you like shift from IEP to 504. And a 504 is awesome. It's going to protect you or your child all through college, all through work, like literally for the rest of their lives. So it's definitely good to get that knowledge on that now rather than later, because then things could just be really difficult, and you want to start your college career as smooth as possible, as much as you can.
Anyone else want to talk about 504 accommodation plans? Somebody asked in the chat if Mass Rehab was helpful to access services or supports, or the Mass Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Can anybody speak to that?
Yeah, so I can talk about Mass Rehab real quick. I was actually there last week. And I have fought with Mass Rehab more than I've had to fight with disability services, to be completely transparent. I've like had a lot of turnover in who my contact is, and they're not always the best about getting in contact with you, because I'm sure they have a ton of people on their like list to get in contact with. But basically, I think that Mass Rehab, from what I understand, is able to help a lot more with in-state tuition and in-state expenses. Where they ran into trouble with me was because I went to the University of Rhode Island, so I was out of state, but they were still able to pay for my books with that. And also, I'm sure if I asked for more, they would have been able to help somewhere with that as well. So the setup with Mass Rehab can sometimes take a little while. So I would suggest maybe junior or senior year starting to think about meeting with someone from there. It's just another resource for you to have, and anything helps with like financials with college as well.
Oops. Kylie, can you talk a little bit about vocational rehab that you mentioned?
Sure, yeah. So one of my deaf friends that went to RIT, also from California, told me to get established with vocational rehabilitation. And so basically, it's just like a government agency that will help you, like college students, with a disability, with also looking for colleges, but also they'll help you pay for tuition, books, plane tickets, things like that. And it's definitely government agency, so it's a bit of a bureaucracy. Like there's definitely a process to how they do everything, but they will help you if you ask for it. So I just reached out to like my local office, like in the county that you're in. Typically you'll make an appointment, you go in, you'll meet your counselor, and they'll just kind of ask you like what kind of job you're looking for, what kind of career you're thinking. They want you to show that you've researched your career. They'll ask you what their employment statistics are for that career. So there's definitely a lot of research that goes into it, but basically it's just for them to document to the government that yes, you are a person with a disability that needs support services. So it's so that they can basically say like yes, you need like tuition assistance, assistance with books, supplies, things like that. So definitely do that. Your junior, senior year of high school, start getting established with them, and they'll help you a lot with college as well. So definitely, if you're flying out of state, those plane tickets are expensive, so they'll help you with that.
So it sounds like maybe the vocational rehab in the county that you talk to is kind of a very similar system to Mass Rehab, because I think it's Mass Vocational Rehab for the state of Massachusetts. So maybe the agency that you're dealing with is New York, Kylie, you think?
So it's kind of complicated. I basically live in New York, but I still get California services because my license is still technically in California. So that's something else to consider too. If you're going out of state for college, those services will be just a little bit different, but it's still pretty standardized around states.
Great. I didn't know if there was a federal agency or a federal vocational rehab system, or if it was state to state.
I think it's across the country, but the services per state are a little bit different. So I have friends from different states. Their vocational rehab will pay for off-campus housing. Sometimes they don't. So you do have to check with your counselor. I think it just kind of depends on the funding from state to state, is my understanding, but yeah.
Are there any other questions for this esteemed group here? You guys, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much. Any last words you'd like to share, or anything that you wish you had known that you'd like to share to your your younger self?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Those are definitely, I definitely went into my first year thinking that I wasn't going to succeed. Like everything was just going to be really hard. But, you know, I got through my first year and 4 years flew by like that. My last semester, graduating in May. It's going to fly by, so enjoy it while you can. And, you know, if you go out of state, good luck to you, even if you're in state. Out of state, stay in touch with your parents because they're going to miss you dearly. Mine did. Mine do.
I would kind of say that professors kind of are going to work with you for the most part. Like I haven't had any professors that I've had to fight with, luckily. So kind of don't be afraid of asking your professors for help or asking your professors for anything that you may need, because they will be more than understanding.
Anyone else have any burning things to share?
It's, I mean, not burning, but one of the other things too is one of the reasons why I chose URI was that it was a nice in between for me from being away from home, that my parents can't just like pop up without, you know, letting me know, but also close enough that I was able to go to Waltham or go to Dartmouth to be able to see my audiologist if my hearing equipment broke down or anything. I know that's something that is hard for a lot of students. They want to be able to go away from home, but it's hard to like find transportation to those appointments. It's something that I also struggled with because I wasn't allowed to have a car on campus my freshman year.
There's lots of nice comments coming into the chats, lots of nice thank yous. And thank you guys for sharing your email addresses too. That's great.
I would say my one piece of advice is college will probably be a journey with a lot of ups and downs, but have faith that everything will kind of work out. And, you know, if you go to college and then you realize that the school isn't the right fit for you, or even if college isn't the right fit for you, that's completely okay. There's our vocational rehab schools, you know, there's trade school. You know, you don't have to do the traditional 4-year college. Well, you can get like your associate's degree. There's plenty of options out there, so you don't have to feel stuck in like a 4-year program that like a traditional schooling experience. There's something out there for everyone. So yeah, I would say that.
Thank you so much, you guys. You are just fabulous. I'm just so impressed with all of you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to everyone. What I'm going to do is caption this. I know we've had the transcript going, but I'm going to correct the typos, and I will put it on my website so that everybody can see it, and I'll send you guys the links. All right. If nobody has anything else, then I think I will let everyone go. And
Brian, thank you so much for organizing this.
thank you so much. It was so good to see you all. Oh, and all your old teachers from Clark East say hi.
Wow.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.
Bye, guys. Enjoyed. Thank you.